Hello all, how are we? I'm just letting Nick in now. Even though he's just texted me and now he's here, so a bit freaky. But anyway, hi Nick.
Hello.
Yeah, meet everyone. Obviously I have to put this out there, the trigger warning video for anyone that's going to feel triggered by this. But the topic, searching for our identity, life after abuse. Now, I feel like together, all six of us play a part in this because we've all experienced some sort of abuse in our time, whatever type of abuse it is. So I'm going to start with Lisa. Welcome to the show. Meet the crew. We've got Nick, we've got Christine, we've got Richard, we've got Crazy Ashley.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here. I'm glad I'm not the only crazy one, Ashley.
Told you. She's always like this. No, I'm joking. I love you, really. So yeah. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how this topic's brought you to talk about this.
Well, I was first sexually abused when I was 2. So I've always remembered it, always known it. It's not new information for me, so I'm not like upset about it right now. Whenever I tell friends, they get all upset and they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." I'm like, "No, it happened a long time ago. It's okay." So that was by a step uncle who was a teenager. When we had to live with my grandma, my mom and I. So my mom was a single mom. I was raised as an only child because she gave up custody of my brother. So I'm not technically an only child, but I was raised that way. And I like to describe my mom as like mommy dearest on welfare. You know, she was like the mommy dearest woman, but without the fabulous wealth. And I like to use humor to, to get through life. So here I am.
Yeah. So basically, yours and Christine's story is pretty much similar.
Oh, is it?
Go on, Christine. One of yours.
Oh yeah, very much so. Thank you, Adam. Yeah, same thing. I discovered in my 30s through hypnosis that I was molested by a grandfather till I was 4 or 5 years old. I had an uncle that was only a year older than me, raped me when I was about 12 or 13, somewhere in there. And it just continued unfortunately, for a very long time till I recognized that this is not how families are supposed to be. This is not what love really is. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it continued, and I pursued those relationships based on what I was taught from that very young age and all the way through till it ended with my second former husband, who was extremely abusive, every abuse possible, from the physical, the mental, the verbal, the psychological, the financial. I mean, you name the abuse, I've been through it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I feel like Richard wants to say something.
I've been abused and I've been the abuser. So I'm on both sides of the fence. So, and I just want to let people know that, that are listening, that just remember that you are the villain in somebody else's story. So when we start talking about this stuff, just don't be on the pity party because you've hurt somebody else in the past.
Absolutely. And I think we've all done that in some way. Like we have been abused, but I think a part of us as well could actually be that abuser as well. Why I'm saying that is because with our defense mechanism, our comeback, and people take that freaking personally sometimes, don't they?
Yep.
So yeah,
I can personally speak to that one, Adam. It's called reactive.
Oh, of course you can.
Oh yeah, it's reactive abuse, and it we get to a point where that abuse has just reached a level that is no longer acceptable to us. We end and if you're in a narcissistic abusive relationship, those buttons are constantly pushed day in, day out, all day long, where they want you to react. That narcissistic abusive person wants you to react so that they can then look like the victim. Hence reactive abuse. So yeah, I've definitely been there. I've actually pulled a firearm on my then second spouse because I had enough. I was walking on, I say that we don't walk on eggshells. We walk on shards of glass because that's how the relationship is. It's tough. It's hard. And we get to a point where we reach our level and say enough is enough. And we're not taught how to typically, we're getting there as a society. And as we get older and talk more about this, we can then learn how to react to, and that's something that I teach my clients, how to react positively instead of to that person, things that we can do instead of reacting. But yeah, I definitely got to the point where I said, okay, enough's enough. I can't take it. And we just blow. And then of course we're the bad guy. We are then the abuser. And that's a really tough, sticky situation, as Richard pointed out, because now we are the abuser. And that's the story that goes around, that we abuse that person. But the story of them abusing us behind closed doors all the time does not. And it makes us look like the bad guy. It's a tough situation.
It is. It is. And this is what I want to ask all of you. I'm going to start with Ashley with this one. I love picking on Ashley. It's funny. in a good way. But why do you think growing up through the education, I'm going to pick on the education because I love doing that. Why do we not get taught how to defend ourselves through abuse? Why is abuse never identified in school or spoken about?
That's a great question. Well, I think just like most of us, they're not taught. They're not, it's not something that is on the regular to necessarily look for. I think it's probably worse in society today. And that you bring this up, it's crazy. A friend literally just posted about teachers that had been arrested, I think it was today or just recently, for making a student who, I think he was like 7 or 8. He was complaining he was sick. He threw up in the cafeteria and they gave him a spoon and made him eat it. They were just and they told him, if you get sick and you throw up, you're going to eat it. So these teachers, and one of them is like 24 years old and the other one is in her 60s. I was like, what in the world? Like, this is
horrible.
Where our society is today. And I feel like you said, it's not something that's, thank you, darling. That's really hot. But it's not something that's looked for, I guess, unless there's those physical, like, bruising signs, if you will, or clear, clear notice that there is or has been abuse. And I think, too, the other thing is the abuser is going to tell a child, especially if you say anything, I will hurt your family.
Yeah.
I will hurt you, or, whatever it is. So they're threatened. And being that we were foster parents, we saw a lot of abuse and some stuff that we didn't even know really the depth of, excuse me, with some of these kids. So it's something that they hold to themselves, typically because their abuser has threatened them.
Mhm.
Yeah. Nick?
Adam,
Nick, you sound all robotic. Is it just me, or does he sound robotic?
yeah, he does. The sound isn't quite right.
This is why, ladies and gentlemen, we come on early so we can sort things out like this.
If you could ask Nick to mute, I'll answer next, Adam.
Yeah, it's all right, Nick.
Okay. Okay. So, Adam, your question was regarding teaching how to deal with abuse in education in our schools.
Yeah, why is it not spoken about?
Okay. So here's how I'm going to answer that. How do you teach something you've never experienced?
Great question.
Thank you.
Great question. Great question.
Thank you. Because unfortunately, because this is why we do this, Adam. This is why you bring this forward. This is why I bring this forward on my podcast and on my writings and teachings and my coaching and everything else. Because for all these years, all these generations, that abuse that occurred when I was little, okay, probably when Richard was younger, okay, the Generation X people, okay, the abuse that our parents endured, it was never talked about. It was swept under the carpet, okay? We saw it growing up. We didn't know any better because it was swept under the carpet. So what happens is through time and through the generations, we got a little smarter. A few generations got a little smarter. A few parents said, okay, wait a second, this isn't quite right. Let's do a little better for our children, okay? But the society in general out there, and not just the American society, we know abuse occurs all over the world, all over the world. You can't, I go back to my question, how can you teach something that you've never experienced? That's number one. Ashley brought up two absolutely fantastic points, okay? The fact that when we say abuse, here's number one. When we say abuse, we automatically presume physical. And abuse is, there's now classified 8 to 16 different types of abuse. Now, I would personally, being the expert that I am, I would put a lot of those remainder ones into one of the 8, okay? But we don't educate on that. We don't, we have to start with things like, honestly, my kids are adults, so I don't know if there's still health class and things like that, okay? But yes, teaching our children that, girls, what's acceptable when dating? What's a red flag when dating? That's where it has to start. Well, honestly, that's the second place it has to start. Where it has to start is at home. And the way we do it at home is by, thank you, Richard, is by bringing awareness into areas like this from, podcasts like yours, Adam, like mine, like everybody else out there that is talking about narcissism and those different types of abuse. The more we talk about it and we educate on what that abuse is, the more then the young parents like Ashley and Lisa out there, they'll learn, okay, wait a second. So I saw my grandparents like this. I now know this is incorrect, okay? The second point that Ashley pointed out was the teachers doing that threatening, okay? Don't you think adults did that as well? How many times have we seen parents? Now, I realize that we have to have a fine line and a balance with our children, okay, on discipline, because we can't let them just run around however they want. There has to be discipline. But the type and the way we discipline has to be acceptable for the situation. If you're constantly just slapping your kid's ass just because, or because Adam, you talked about previously, I think before air about your daughter spilling nail polish. Okay, that's an accident. kids are going to do that. Have the conversation instead of discipline on the first time. And Ashley could probably certainly answer this better than I can, okay, because she still has young children. But I know with my grandchildren that I want to be able to teach them what is right, what's wrong, what's a yellow flag, because a yellow flag will always turn into a red flag. It's through education and experience from those of us that have actually experienced it. Not teachers that are coming out of college and they've only been teaching 3, 4, 5 years. They don't have a clue. They don't even teach this shit in college. They don't know how to deal with. You have a classroom. Put yourself in that teacher situation. She is a class of anywhere from what, Ashley, 20 to 30 students? Yeah, 20 to 30 students. And they all have their own way of learning. Some are high velocity, some are rambunctious, some are calm and quiet and cool. They have their personalities. They're not always going to be in a army type situation where it has to be bam, 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 bam. But yes, there has to be discipline and there has to be a little bit of this. But teachers don't know how to teach this. They've never experienced it. And if they experienced it, it certainly wasn't taught from college, going through school. So it has to come from people like you, Adam, people like myself that are starting nonprofits to educate the women that are going through it, the men that are going through it, and say, okay, this is how it's going to take generations till we can finally end abuse and domestic violence.
Yeah, you mentioned, Christine, there was 8 to 10 types of abuse. There's actually 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's physical, sexual, financial, psychological, discriminatory, neglect or acts of omission, organizational, self-neglect, domestic abuse, and modern slavery.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple there that you missed. There's also technological abuse, and there's also race abuse.
Exactly. So there you go.
There's a few more. Yeah.
There's a few more. So Ashley looks shocked after listening to that.
Well, I mean, it's not that I'm shocked that there's that many different types of abuse, but you always think of the basic ones, the emotional, the verbal, the sexual, and the physical. You don't think of the other ones or even necessarily even connect it that, oh yeah, that would be, abuse or anything like that. So yeah, there's a lot. And I think people get, the more that society continues, I think more will continue to come out as well and be labeled and whatever. So I guess I'm not surprised, but yeah, that's a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The bottom line, Adam, being abuse is abuse. Let's recognize it no matter what it is labeled as being wrong. And we have to get to a point where we do not tolerate it anymore, no matter who it comes from. Man, woman, child, family, mother, daughter, sibling, spouse. It has to stop, plain and simple. You know my stand on this, Adam. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but it's not. Go on.
Oh, me? I just wanted to say, talking about why we're not educated in school about abuse is because, and I believe you all said this to a certain degree, children lie. So when I was in second grade, I went through a period of time where I did not do any work. I just sat there and stared. It was just something was shutting down in my brain. And that was my mother's abuse. And she was dating an alcoholic, abusive, married man. So a lot was going on at home. And my teacher was very nice. And she called me up and she's like, Lisa, what's going on? I'm like, oh, no. And she's like, is there anything going on at home? And I said, no. Because if I said something, well, then I'd really get the crap beat out of me.
Absolutely. Well, I want to add to that. And I'm going to add to that with a question. And I feel like this is a brilliant question to talk about. Right. Domestic abuse, domestic violence. We know women experience it. We know men experience it. But when a man rings up the authorities, whoever you are, and reports that they are being abused, why is it the man is always arrested, never the woman?
Do you want
Yeah,
me to
I
take
mean,
this one,
that's.
Adam?
Go ahead.
No,
I
go
don't know.
ahead. I'll put my 2 cents in then. Go ahead, Lisa.
Oh, I don't know. I think it's wrong. I think that men still are not being taken seriously in abusive situations and in parental custody situations. You know, it's not
Don't
always
get me
the
started on that.
woman who's
Do
the
not
best
get me
parent.
started on that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, in the case with my mom and my biological father, they were both terrible. So I don't know if it would have been any better with my father, but the custody, when I was going through my own divorce and battling my ex-husband for custody, my lawyer told me, Lisa, unless you're doing crack and swinging from a pole, you're going to get custody.
Yeah. Richard?
So,
You know, you don't want to get me started on this.
Hence why I've called you out on this. Come on, Richard. Come on. I want to hear it.
Excuse my language, but I know that if my friends that are police officers, if I call them and say, hey guys, I need you to come, I'm being abused, they would say, listen, bitch, man up.
mhm.
And I think that's
Yep.
most of the time that when a man is being abused and he does call in cops there's a lot of great cops out of there, but there's a lot of guys that are alpha males and they're going to be like, wait a minute, you're being sexually abused and you're a male, or you're being abused as a male. I think guys are just afraid of making that phone call. And I just want to add something. You know, you guys were talking about earlier. I work with my town, and in the United States, every day on average, 5,000 adolescents attempt suicide every day in the United States. And I think a lot of it is because they're afraid to speak up because of somebody telling them, "Hey, be quiet, or else I'm going to do something bad to your family." So that's just my 2 cents on the subject. And as far as a male going to court and trying to get custody, where I live, like she said, you know, you have to be crack or sitting on a pole somewhere in order not to get custody. And most guys, they're like, wait a minute, I got 4 kids. If I go to get divorced, there goes my whole career, everything I have. So I'm just going to stay married and put up with the abuse instead of filing for divorce. So that's my opinion on all of it.
Nick? Hope it's not robotic, Nick.
I hope not. How do I sound now?
Yeah.
Normal.
Yeah, no, so I go so go back to the point I was making so earlier, I guess, that so, you know, abuse can happen in obviously individual relationships, you know, but it also can happen in trusted institutions, you know. And I know I haven't experienced abuse myself, but I know a close friend who's written a book about, you know, abuse in children's homes in England. And I think that's quite shocking because obviously it has to be a place of trust and support. And that was in the sort of 70s and 80s. And you could say, well, that's a long time ago. It's changed now, but there's been a raft of inquiries recently. And some people, politicians and archbishops have had to step down because of, so it's, you know, it's still 30 years later still happening. And I think, you know, that's, you know, what, you know, there's obviously this, you know, things put in place, but why does it still go on? I think there's a whole thing of, you know, what are people, is it not the right, you know, are people not able to come forward or feel they're able to come forward? Am I not listened to? You know, it comes down to fundamental basics. But yeah, I also want to comment on the, you know, the thing about technology and how abuse has changed technology. Because in England, we're just, the government's putting in a law, make a specific law, making it illegal to share AI generated porn images of like someone, because that's become a thing where, you know, so someone will split up and then they'll put fake images using AI of their ex on the internet. And so it's a specific law about that. And I think, you know, this is, you know, the abuse and how people, you know, abuse is obviously changed. You know, it's all those ways, you know, you said earlier, but also it's, you know, technology is making a way, you know, that abuse can manifest even harder. But I think it comes down to, because I work with a lot of children, some of those have had abuse, and it's always an approach we take. It's not about them as forgiving or forgetting what's happened. You know, it's about accepting it in some sort of way, so they can move on in their life. So, you know, it's never about forgiving or forgetting or accepting what's happened. It's about coming to terms with it, so that, you know, their life isn't defined. You know, the whole, you know, if they can still, you know, move forward their life. But yeah, just throwing a few random thoughts there, but yeah,
absolutely. What's going on? I don't know what happened then. So yeah, it is a bit up in the air at the minute, and it does need speaking about a lot more than usual. Yeah, especially with the abuse. But it's more family that abuses us, I think. More family. Like they say, you can't choose. You can choose your friends, but not your family. But that's not always the case, because you can choose your family. But I've got my family right here. So you can. But it's just how they treat you. And that's why you have to keep your circle small. You do. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, like they say, you know, what you accept will continue. So if you're an adult, and I'm saying as an adult, I'm not saying as a teenager, as a kid, but if you're an adult and if you accept the way they treat you, it's never going to change. So either you're going to have to do addition by subtraction and cutting them out of your life, or you're going to just continue on getting abused.
Exactly.
I actually did tell my mom. Oh, sorry. Everybody's talking.
Oh, go on, Lisa.
Oh, I actually did tell my mom when I was 17 to stop hitting me. And I did it very forcefully, and she never hit me again. It was because she found my birth control pills, and my mother had my brother when she was 16. So I thought it would be great to say to her, well, at least I'm not going to get pregnant when I'm a teenager like you. And then she hit me pretty hard across the face. And I just said, stop hitting me. And that was it. That was the last time.
Yeah. See, I remember mine where obviously I was hit from the age of 3. So yeah, almost 33 years ago. Well, not 30. I'm making myself old here. Yeah, 31 years ago then. But yeah, and it actually took me to respond violently and started hitting them back for the violence to stop. Yeah, and I'm not that type of person.
My brother did that before I was born. He was 9 years older than me. He passed away a few years ago. But my mother said at one point my brother picked up one of these 1970s toys that make noise when you push them and hit her with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And again, that's reactive abuse. You know, he reached his limit. Just like you did, Adam.
Reached the limit, yeah.
Your limit. You know,
what made it worse, Christine? What made it worse is the fact that my alcoholic mother just stood there and watched.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's all right. It's okay. I've made those amends and all that. Will I make amends with those that hit me in the past? No. No. Do I want to? No. Is it resentment? No. It's I'll forgive myself. So go on, Ashley. What about you? I'm sure you've gone through some abuse in your time.
The what? Your phone just cut out.
Really?
What's your question? Yes, what's your question?
About abuse, like your experience.
I can't say that I've ever been physically abused. Disciplined? Yes. Abused? No. Maybe verbally, I guess.
Just quick one. I'm looking at the guests now, and there's a Chris in the studio, but the camera off. Is that relating to you, Lisa?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
There's a Chris with same name to you in the studio, but camera off, in the green room.
Oh,
is that you?
That's my husband. I sent him the link and asked him, "Is this live? Like, can you see me right now?"
Ah,
yeah,
no. We're on YouTube.
Okay. Yeah, no, sorry about that.
It's okay. Please continue, Ashley.
Potentially, I would say verbally, probably more as a teenager than anything, or maybe even emotionally. I guess I would really have to dig deeper into that to really determine, okay, was this truly abuse, or is this just, like family drama type reactions to things? I can say kind of like Richard and what you were saying, Christine, as far as like being that reactive abuser. I can say that I have done that, especially verbally. As an adult, I would say there has been some emotional, verbal type abuse, narcissistic type behaviors from people within family that have almost gaslit me, make me think that I'm the crazy one, and am I really this awful human being? And, like those types of things, definitely abuse, if you would, want to label it. But it's also one of those things for me, that I really, I guess, struggle with is how to address it. I haven't had anything happen recently, if you will, but just like things that have happened before. How do you address it without causing that ripple effect with my children, or them getting caught in the middle of something that has nothing to do with them? So it's more of, I'm gonna forgive you, and I'm just gonna chalk that up to it's your medication, and we're just gonna let that go, kind of a thing. And then I'm going to keep an eye on it and set those clear boundaries if they need to be set. And my husband has very much like vocalized, if this is how this is going to continue, you will no longer see me or my kids or our family again, type of a thing. So he's set that boundary even without me having to do it. But yeah, like there's a lot of things that I can probably trace back within my history and within my family that you could probably say, yeah, that's like an emotional or verbal abuse type of a situation.
Yeah. I think obviously before we go on to identity, Lisa, I did actually email you the YouTube link. What's this stream?
Thank you.
You've got it direct. You've got it direct. So we have to be careful when it comes to removing the kids' contact from people, because especially when it comes to the wording, because obviously they may see that as we're poisoning the kids' minds and we're actually abusing the kids, not them. Obviously, I've had that. But I want to talk about the in-laws for a moment. See Ashley's response there.
The in-laws?
The in-laws. What if the in-laws, like if you get into a relationship with someone you love, things are going great. Yeah, you've had rocky moments, but it's going great. See, my American accent's coming out now. Thanks, guys. but I've been spending too much time with Americans, but that's not more of a reason for me to move over there, by the way. But
you don't want to move here.
What's that?
You don't want to move here now. You have the news, right? You see the news?
I don't watch the news. No.
Okay, good.
No, but if the in-laws, whether it's on the paternal or the maternal side, do not like the couple being together, they never have, they probably never will. Why is it always the kids that are getting punished through this? That's what I want to know.
That's a really good question, and that issue has come up recently. So my son is half Cuban, his father's side, not me. Obviously, I'm very white. But he grew up more with me. We divorced when he was 4. So he does not speak Spanish fluently. Like I probably speak more Spanish than he does. And the in-laws, his grandmother in particular, would always pick on him and in Spanish and tell him, you need to learn Spanish. You need to do this. Why aren't you learning Spanish? Well, I mean, they should have been teaching him Spanish, right? Like, because I'm not the native speaker. He took it in school, but as far as, and it's apparently a whole thing, at least here in the States, there's a hashtag no sabo kids, which is basically slang for don't know kids.
Okay.
And it's kids in my son's situation that are Hispanic, but they do not speak Spanish, and the family kind of picks on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can speak from example for talking about in-laws. My mom, both of mine are gone now, but my wife wants nothing to do with my mother because she read my book and she found out how I was abused. So my wife wants absolutely nothing to do with my mother. And the hardest part is I'm actually the one that's taking care of my mother. So for me, it's kind of like I'm taking care of my abuser, but my wife wants nothing to do with the situation. I mean, of course, if she needs Depends or she'll order stuff for me to bring to her. But as far as having any kind of relationship with her, after finding out she was my abuser, it's a wrap. So I think a lot of times when you have a specific significant other knowing you were abused by somebody, it changes the whole game as far as family dynamics go.
Does it not put you in a catch-22 situation, though, Richard?
It does, but the only thing that's my saving grace is when my father was on his deathbed, he was just about to pass. He made me promise that I'd take care of my mother. So I'm doing it more for him than I'm doing it for her. And then I realized that, you know, I'm earning my wings into heaven just by doing this. And I also feel that because now she's in an assisted living home, I get to go home at night. I'm free. She's stuck in there and will never come back out unless it's in a body bag. So for me, you know, my wife, she knows, you know, she abused me that bad that my wife knows, and now will never have anything to do with her again. Probably won't even go to the funeral.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, Ashley, obviously, we've had several conversations about in-laws,
We
both
have.
you and I. We have. When you,
Go ahead.
yeah. When you drop you or your fella drops the kids off at the in-laws, does your anxiety go up?
No, I mean, they typically pick the kids up if they do. It doesn't, at this point, like I said, it's one of those, I'm going to be the bigger person in the situation, and just knowing in the back of my mind, okay, this is the true thought that you think of me, but that's your opinion. You're entitled to it. Whatever.
Yeah.
But the other piece is as well, is my husband's biological mom. I very much, for whatever reason, over the course of the last, I don't even know how many years, we haven't had contact with her in a very long time, but I am very much the villain in her story. So much so that she hopes I die. Awesome.
Really?
Great.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
Pretty certain, I took your ass in when you had no place to go and allowed you to live with me for months and then helped you get an apartment and all of these things. But okay, that's great. She has not met 3 of my 6 children. And whatever, she thinks that my children will harbor resentment towards my husband for keeping her away from them, or against both of us. I don't know, who knows, whatever. But at the end of the day, we have very much told the kids, like, if they ask, it's she made choices that we are protecting you from, and we do not want that in our home or around our home. And that is why you don't have contact with her anymore. Or we don't have contact with her anymore. Some of them are too little to really remember who she is. Our oldest is 14. He does remember her to an extent. But at the end of the day, again, like, it's about your choices. So I think that's one of those things regarding in-laws. Like, even when you're looking at children, if they are making poor decisions, whether she is now or she isn't, that's neither here nor there. But back then, if you're making poor decisions and you're showing up intoxicated to our home, knowing that we don't allow that in our home, that's not acceptable, how do I know that when you're watching my children, you're not completely loaded? Like, no. I mean, this is a woman that could literally drink straight up vodka and pretend it's ice water. Like, and yeah, and she would hide it and all sorts of things. So it's like, no, I'm not going to entrust you to watch my children and me hoping to God that you're sober the whole entire time that you're watching them. She used to get so intoxicated, she would black out. And my husband's younger brother at the time, to be honest, we tried to get him taken away from her. But the CPS system in the United States, they're like, unless she's doing something illegally, we're not going to do it. They wouldn't even do a welfare check. They wouldn't do anything. And it's like, okay, if she's smoking, she blacks out. So you're saying she has to start the whole damn place on fire before you would do anything. And we knew that there were times that she had driven intoxicated with him, but how could we prove it? There was nothing that we could do. So I think there's guilt that my husband still carries to this day for that. But it's one of those things, like, there was nothing we could do. But it's again, it's that protection mechanism. It's setting up that boundary and making it clear, like, especially if the kids are old enough, and saying, hey, they're making poor choices. And for us, we can pray for them, we can wish them well, but we're not going to have that in our lives. Like, we don't allow those types of behaviors in our family. So this is why, and just explain it. I mean, it's not easy. They can take it how they're going to take it. But again, it's that protection, especially when they're younger, because that's your job, is to protect your children. And when they get older, if they choose to seek her out, well, that's their choice. But I'm not going to be in the assistance of that, if you will. Like, I won't. I mean, anywho. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah. Well, going off that, and I said this in AA on Wednesday, and to be honest, I'm still processing it now, and I may need your help with this. For 16 years, well, over 16 years now, Kerry's parents have never accepted me. Never. They've caused conflict. They've caused issues, all that. Fair enough, okay. But on Wednesday, obviously I was arrested as well because of mother-in-law. But then on Wednesday, she came up to me and shook my hand and asked if I was okay. And she has never done that, ever. Never asked if I was okay or anything like that.
What prompted Adam?
Honestly, I think it's down to Kerry's healing. I think it's down to that, but I'm struggling to process that. Now, I know I did say my share on AA, which I know it's anonymous, but obviously I can share my share. But
Right.
But obviously I said that I'm struggling to process, but instead of processing it, just accept it. It happened, live it. But I don't know how to. Because I'm questioning, like, why now? Why not 16 years ago? Why not 10 years ago? Why now?
Can I, as somebody that's an addict and alcoholic, can I maybe give some light on that subject?
Yeah.
Maybe they realize that you're no longer an asshole. You're trying to be a better man. You're trying to be a better father. You're trying to be a better husband. And they're starting to see the real you, and they're not seeing the 16-year you. So maybe they're just saying, okay, maybe they're rethinking maybe some of the things that they've said in the past. And all you can do is accept it with grace and say, all I can do is the next right thing. And I tell you that all the time. All you can do is the next right thing. And if you keep doing that, they're probably going to come around a little bit more, because now they know that, especially as a father, I'm a father and I got a daughter. No man is ever good enough for my daughter. But when they start seeing that the man that you're becoming, maybe they're starting to accept you, because now you are the new you. You're not the old you.
Yeah. I'm going to take that. Yeah. I love that.
I think too, like, you have to think of, okay, in the moments, like, Richard said, they're starting to see the new you.
Yeah.
But you also have to keep in mind, and I've heard this multiple times, and I'm very guilty of it. But if Carrie talks to her parents, or did in the darkest moments of your relationships, when you were being the a-hole and you were doing this and you were doing that, that's the vision of you that they have in their head. So that's why a lot of times we as women, when we complain to our moms, because that's typically who we go to if you've got that relationship with her, but if you go to your parents about your marriage, they are going to hold that in their heads. Now, because I am very close with my mother, there have been moments where I'll like unload on my mom about my husband because she's my safe space. But at the same time, I know like how my mom is. She's not about to hold a grudge against my husband, thankfully. But some women or moms or dads can. And like Gary was never, ever, he was always respectful to my dad, like whatever. But when we first got engaged, my dad said to both of us, "You won't last 5 years. Tomorrow, we celebrate our 20-year anniversary of being a couple. Tomorrow." So it's one of those things of, that's your opinion. And you're entitled to your opinion. But guess what? Now you've lit a fire under my ass of, I'm just going to show you that this is what our relationship is going to be and look like. Now, could we have very much said a long time ago, this is it, like we're done? Because a lot of people didn't have faith in us, didn't believe in us. But it is something that we have dedicated a lot of hard work to and a lot of time to our relationship. So you just have to keep that in mind, that that could be how they're envisioning you. And now, because you're sober and because you're correcting a lot of your past, now, like Richard said, they're starting to see who you truly are. So I would take that as a win. Like, you don't have to necessarily celebrate it or, you know, go all, oh my God, she actually gave me a hand. You know, like, you don't have to blow it out of proportion and go all crazy about it. But internally, I would take that as a freaking win of, okay, let's keep going here and see what else we can get. Maybe next time she's gonna give you a hug. You better be careful.
Don't make me feel sick.
Yeah, I think Adam, you should be proud of yourself, because like everyone's saying, you know, it reflects you know, how well you've got, you know, improving your life to get to that point where, you know, she's wanted to show, you know, that you know, she's changed the way she thinks about you, because, you know, parents should be protective of their children and should put them first, ideally, and not want people who have a bad influence to be with them. And obviously, I think it sounds like Kerry's in-laws had that relationship with you, though, you know, they didn't. So for 16 years to come around, get to that point, that's obviously a reflection of them viewing you as you know, changed and moved, you know, and better than you were. So I think, definitely, you know, take that, see that with pride. You know, that's a good reflection of where you've come in your journey, where you are now, and then recognizing that you've changed the person in a good way.
Absolutely. Christine, I've never seen you so quiet.
It's okay. So I think my only question, Adam, is, and I agree with Richard and Ashley and Nick in regards to, they probably do see the change. But my question to you, and you can answer it on camera or not, is, have you made amends to them?
Have I what? Made amends?
It's one of the steps in the 12 steps to make amends. I'm sure somewhere along the line, you probably, as an alcoholic, did or said something that didn't sit where we all do. I'm a recovering alcoholic as well. You know that. That is one of those steps. And again, I said, you can address it on camera or not, but make amends. And I would have come right out when you asked the question originally. I would have come right out and asked your mother-in-law, why now? What's different? What's changed? Open that conversation. You might get a little insight.
Possibly, yeah. And you know what? I will answer. I approached my father-in-law and made amends. He shut me down. He shut me down. And to be
And
honest,
that's on him. You did the right thing.
yeah, he shut me down.
Yeah, I can understand.
Obviously, he accepted my apology or stuff like that. Fair enough, okay. But he shut me down, and to me, water under the bridge.
I think, Adam, you know that you have to be, proud that reaching out is a very big thing to do, and that's a hard thing to do.
It is,
and you can't control someone's reaction, and maybe to an extent they've got a right to react the way he did. But what you did, you reached out, and that's all you can do is to honestly, authentically reach out. And like I said, if you apologize, then that's a big thing.
Absolutely.
That's on your part, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. So, last question for you all: identity. How did you find your identity after being abused for years?
Wow, that is a tough question. I like to say I did not become sane until I was 33, because I did repeat abuse in my relationships where I was the abuser by not being faithful, or that person was physically abusing me. So I think it was like trial and error that I found out that I did not need to be with a partner who needed to be fixed, so to speak. I also learned at a young age that people laugh at me when I rant about things. So I kind of learned that I deal with things with humor, which does help because I'd rather laugh than cry personally. So I don't know. It was a journey.
It's a very long journey, and it is a very personal journey. Not every one of us will go through it at the same rate, at the same length, the same way. Everyone heals differently. My healing journey took me years, and I tell my clients that this is not when you are ready to heal, and you truly have to be ready on the inside for that healing. Okay, you have to be open to discovering who you are inside, who that person is, who your character is, who your personality is, what your morals and your ethics are. Because we lost all those being in an abusive relationship, because we were reacting to the abuse. So when we start that journey, when we're ready, it is a long, hard process. This is not something you wake up from one morning and go, oh, yay, rainbows and unicorns, I'm healed. It does not happen like that. It does not. And everyone is different. My journey was, I'm still on my journey. Now there's quite a bit of it is healed from everything that I've been through. For those of you that don't know, that maybe listening for the first time, my second former husband shot me in the back of the head. Okay, you don't think that took a long time to deal with? And the triggers that went along with that relationship, that took a very long time to deal with. But it was at my pace and my journey, and it is completely personal. We all heal at a different rate, and the way we do it. Some retreat inward completely and try and do that self-discovery. Others seek meditation and self-care. Others go out and they want to reestablish the relationship with family that they lost because of that abusive relationship. Friends that they didn't see for years because of that abusive relationship. So it takes on its own life based on who we are. But if it's a journey you're on, and it seems like you're going through hell, keep going, because it does get better on the other side. We do heal from it, without a doubt.
Absolutely. Yeah. Ashley. Remember, your identity is not with you, fella. With you.
Yeah, I know. No, I think it was for me, it's really the healing that I decided to go on. Because so much of me has always been wrapped up in what other people think of me. And I think that started probably in elementary school, because I was bullied as a kid.
Yeah.
And I did become a bully. I believe I did, because of it. But really finding the why and uncovering how everything was connected, and what does trigger me. Now, do I always handle those triggers appropriately even after going through it? Oh, definitely not, because I know that there's more healing that needs to take place and more discovery, if you will, that needs to take place. But it's also a process of deciding to be different, not ignoring the crap that's there, but also acknowledging the fact that, again, for me, anything that I may have done in the past or contributed to whatever toxicity in relationships or my part of it, it's taking that responsibility and also knowing that I have been forgiven. And it doesn't need to necessarily be from the people themselves, but for me, that God has forgiven me, that my slate is wiped clean. In the eyes of those people, maybe not, but for me, there's nothing I can do to change it and to go back. So how do I move forward? How do I show up differently? And how do I just be a different human in what I know today about who I am? And really ultimately loving who I am, even if other people don't, because that's their problem, not mine.
Absolutely. Before we move on to Richard, I know Christine needs to go. We are not on next week. We're having a week off. It's the week after. So 2 weeks. And the topic we're going to be discussing is the cycle of manipulative abuse.
Ooh, right up my alley. Thank you, Adam. Thank you all. I'll see you next.
Yeah, all right. Please share this, everyone. Please share this.
Yeah. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. Right. Richard, the comeback coach. Come on. Let's see what the comeback comes out with.
Well, I can actually take you to the exact minute when I made the choice not to be that man that I was. And that is 9:06 a.m. on September 11th, 2001, when that second building fell. That's when I decided for the rest of my life, I dedicate the rest of my life to helping people that can't help themselves. Yeah. So that's when, at that moment, is when the today I decide factor started. So I can go right back to the moment when I realized I don't want to be this guy anymore. I'm not that guy. So the same guy that woke up on September 11th is not the same guy that went to bed at September 11th. So we can always change. We can change in a minute. We just have to make that decision to change. And like something that somebody said, that, and I love that, God's going to put you back together in front of the people that broke you. So just remember that same addict that you used to talk crap about might be the same addict that's going to save your children's lives.
Exactly.
So I just wanted to say that.
Nick.
I was bullied a lot at school, and I had several long-term relationships where I had, I guess, emotional abuse and financial abuse. And I think for me, I linked my confidence, my value and self-worth with the relationship with the partner. And so I was sort of caught in that dependency. And so for me, it was about definitely reconnecting with family and friends, and having my independence. My worth is my value is independent of anyone else. It's something which I own, and it's something that is linked, just related to me and not dependent on anyone else. And that's part of my biggest part of my journey is with that realization and then building on that. Not putting all my emotions and all my into one person, which I had done a lot of the relationships I had where there was a lot of emotional abuse, I guess. But reconnecting lots of people as part of that closer, supportive social circle. That's what I did for my journey.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you all for coming on. It's been an absolute blast. Please share this, everyone. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And we've now got a new format where obviously the team knows that if people want to request to come back on or come onto the show, we've now got an application form to come on. Have you seen it, Nick?
No, I know you mentioned it before. I saw when you posted, but no, I need to check it out.
Yeah, I know Richard and Ashley have seen it, haven't you?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think?
Ash, I just wanted to say you're doing a great job doing everything and doing all the admin stuff. So thank you so much.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to end this now. Thanks, Lisa, for coming on. You've been an absolute blast. I hope you come back again at some point. And we'll see everyone in 2 weeks.
Onwards and upwards.
Hey, we need to shout Nance out. She's getting married today, guys.
She is, yes. I was about to click end, but yeah, Nancy, kick ass. Hope you don't do anything stupid. I know you won't, but yeah, congrats on the wedding, her and Ralph, and hope we see you back in March. That's what she told me. She'll be back in March. So let's kick ass, and yeah, we'll see you then. For now.
Great. Thanks, Adam.